And we actually have someone who is probably, and I'm being very serious, one of the most respected men in all of Canada. He's the chief of staff over at the Trillium Hospitals. His name is Dr. Gopal Bhatnagar. I get it?
You did absolutely, Todd. Thank you very much.
I did okay.
Yeah,
I did all right, Todd.
Let's see if I can live up to your expectations, though.
How about G? Can I just call you G?
Absolutely, G. Yeah,
we'll make it easy. No, Dr. G, Dr. Gopal.
Dr. G is good. Dr. G is good.
And with our friend, a recurring friend from the show, a guy who has truly helped us immensely, because we met him at the Gentleman's Expo back in November. Jay Brody had a smoking problem. The whole goal of the new year, everyone has these resolutions. Everyone wants to take care of themselves. Everyone always says they're going to do stuff, but never really do anything about it. All of a sudden, we managed this guy's expectations. He went on vapemoshi.com. He hasn't had a cigarette now in 2 months, and we're so proud of the guy.
Amazing.
It's
Well done,
unbelievable.
well done.
And this is a legit story, and that's why we want to thank Beju, the founder, who also was once a smoker and now doesn't smoke, of vapemoshi.com. How you doing, my man?
Todd, I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to hear that Jay is still holding strong and doing well. And today we brought some backup, have a little more conversation about vaping.
Yeah, this is wild because Dr. Gopal, of course, chief of staff at Trillium. How long have you been doing heart surgery for?
Oh, Todd, probably just around 25 years now. We've been doing opening hearts and trying to fix them up as best we can.
It really is an amazing story, and you've brought in some really new types of ways to do procedures, have you not?
Well, we do a lot of this beating heart surgery. We're one of the leading centers in Canada doing that. That means being able to operate on the heart without using the heart-lung machine. You can still do a vast majority of number of operations without stopping the heart, so that less blood transfusions, better outcome for patients, and that's really what it's all about.
My goodness, and you must have seen some very tragic situations, but obviously you've saved thousands of lives. And kudos to you, man. I have so much respect for doctors, and I'm being very serious. You know, we have a fun show, and we always juvenile here, but it's an amazing, and you're extremely intelligent, man. Some of the things you see with the heart defects, and obviously your years and years and years of practice, are generally, and maybe I shouldn't generalize, but are caused from smoking. Is that correct as well?
80% of all heart disease is caused by some sort of lifestyle problem. What I've seen, and we know now, it's coming out more and more, that even more important than cholesterol is the risk of tobacco smoking. So that's like number one, and it's preventable. So as I said, you burn tobacco, really bad stuff comes out of it into your body.
And what is it? What are the effects on the heart from tobacco?
Sure. So the effects on the heart are almost immediate. Your heart rate will go up. Your arteries in your bloodstream kind of go into spasm, so the blood flow to your heart decreases. You can actually measure with an ultrasound and see the heart muscle function decline as people are smoking. It releases a whole bunch of chemicals into your bloodstream that causes inflammation in the heart, damages the inside of the heart arteries, as well as arteries in the whole body everywhere.
Are there seemingly healthy-looking individuals? They work out, and they ride their bikes. They have that strong jawline I've always wanted. And I have to grow a goatee to cover up my kind of double chin here. But that actually internally, because they're smoking, because they're not taking care of themselves, they have terrible hearts. They just don't know it. Is there that confusion sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're smoking and you're smoking tobacco, you can look fit, you can look great, but the damage is you're kind of rotting on the inside.
And how young of patients will you work on?
I do only adult surgery, so under 18, we'll go down to sick kids. That's usually problems with kids that are born with a problem with their heart, congenital. The youngest person I've ever done a coronary bypass on would be about age 23.
Whoa. Coronary bypass.
Yeah.
And define that for some of our listeners who don't know what that is, including me.
Okay. Well, that's where that's when the kind of arteries are blocked. So it's human plumbing. So we'll take vein from people's legs, different arteries from parts of the body, basically open up an artery, kind of stitch it together, and then put the other end somewhere else to basically go around a blockage. Imagine if your pipe got blocked in your kitchen. Rather than unblock the pipe, we just build another pipe around it.
Okay, so liquid Drano, not a good solution for this
unfortunately, that's kind of the holy grail. If somebody can invent liquid Drano for the human arteries, man, I'd be retired. I'd be doing this radio station from my estate in the Bahamas.
Hey, by the way, Dr. G, I'm sure you already have an estate in the Bahamas. Okay, I'm sure you're doing all right. Well, Well, you deserve everything.
I can't complain.
And you know what, though? Doctors deserve every single penny
very
that you
kind
get,
of
and
you.
it should never be capped, ever. You're saving lives. That's my statement there. So now when it comes to smoking, and now there's new craze over the last few years, VapeMoshi.com, E-Cigs, all these different things with vaporizing, you're actually an advocate for this stuff because it's harm reducing. And you're seeing it now for people who quit smoking, they have healthier hearts. Speak to this a little, if you don't mind.
Well, I knew nothing about e-cigarettes or the vaping 3 years ago. And actually, when I started reading about it, I was actually quite negative because, my initial reaction when you heard the term cigarette is very negative. But I said, let's keep an open mind about it. I spent about 9 months doing the research on it before I kind of, became a proponent of it. And my opinion is based on the science of it. We know that when you introduce an electronic cigarettes into a smoking population, the people, they drop their cigarette consumption at least 50%. Okay, and we know that the risk of cancer, heart disease, everything like that is dependent on how many cigarettes you smoke. So even if you don't quit completely, my hope is that people will use it to quit completely. But even if you don't, we know that you can reduce the harm being done to the human body by them. So the research on that, and there were some randomized trials that were done. One was published in The Lancet, where they compared what doctors typically recommend, the patches in the gums, to the new electronic cigarette. And they were actually pretty equal in helping people quit smoking. And at the end of 6 months, there was less relapse in the people that used an electronic cigarette product. So for me, the science became quite compelling. When you actually analyze the chemistry in the vapor, which is a simple chemistry experiment, you don't find anything that's really, even potentially dangerous. People argue that, well, we don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. Although part of that is true, I know very certainly what's going to happen in 20 years if you continue to smoke cigarettes. So, let's compare the difference between smoking cigarettes, which is like, in the stratosphere, to smoking electronic cigarettes, which is, the dangers like at ground level.
It's coming from your mouth, obviously doing what you do, being a surgeon, a cardiac surgeon, and being the chief of staff at Trillium, I would imagine that there are a lot of people going, wow, we're hearing it right from, this expert, this guy who understands what it takes to save lives. But then you must have people who are like, Dr. Gopal, you should not be saying this stuff. Are there a lot of people fighting you too on this stuff?
Is that the science of it is, I'm happy to debate the science of it with anybody, and I'm happy to always learn myself. I learned about this, and I'm always keeping track of the data, the science of it, pros and negatives. The issue really now is that, if, and we were talking about this out in the green room, is that if you think it's harmful, like, people say, what's a gateway to kids to start smoking cigarettes? Okay, well, that may be a fundamental concern, but then you go out and you do the research, and then the research has actually been done. There's a huge study of about 12,000 individuals out of the UK that shows that in a market where e-cigarettes are very easy to get for kids and anybody, that only 0.22% of vapors are actually youth. If you're not a smoker, this product really doesn't appeal to you. So that whole concern, really, the data doesn't support it. It's legitimate to have a concern, but I don't think that it's kind of it's not the right thing to then just ignore the data because it doesn't kind of meet your idea.
Well, and the gateway argument I hate, and the gateway for children to start smoking. And I'm only doing this on a humility level, on a person who just is a layman and understands you had the peer pressure growing up in high school. You saw your boys smoking, you thought it was cool, you had a cigarette, and next thing you know, you were smoking a little bit more because it's a little bit addicting and all this kind of stuff. And then hopefully you have the wherewithal to realize you're damaging the fuck out of yourself. Yeah. So stop this. And with Vape Moshi, with E-Cigs, whatever, that data of you harming yourself is not the same data as it is with smoking. So even if there is an 18-year-old out there who grabs an e-cigarette or grabs a Vape Moshi, it's like, well, wouldn't you rather them do that? Wouldn't you rather them then go back to that if smoking came from it? If that makes sense, every cigarette hurts the human body. One cigarette hurts the human body. Is that not true?
Well, we know, I couldn't really say that, is that we know that, I tried cigarettes when I was a kid, hated them, gave me a headache, I gave it up. I don't think I permanently damaged my health.
Okay.
But at the same time, we know, again, looking at the data, in everywhere that e-cigarettes have become popular, smoking rates have actually gone down.
Wow.
So if the idea was that e-cigarettes are a gateway to kids smoke, why are we not seeing kids smoking more? In fact, we're not. We're seeing them smoke less. And the kids that are using electronic cigarettes are the ones that were smoking tobacco. They're not supposed to be able to get tobacco, but yet somehow kids do. I'm not advocating, sort of youth smoking. I mean, I
No,
think
not
that,
at all. But unfortunately, they find their way.
They find their way.
That's
They
just
find
the
their way.
realities of
So, the public health messages that we're doing, they're bang on. We need to make sure that kids understand it's dangerous, that everybody's dangerous. We don't want to make it look cool again. And I think that message is out there. But that message has run its course. You can't everybody knows they're bad for you. People who are smoking know it's bad for you, but they can't get off it. So we just can't ignore the practical realities of trying to, of getting rid of burning tobacco in our society.
I personally found the whole flavored e-vape or e-juice comparison and how that's a gateway. It's absurd because I'm in the liquor store not too long ago looking at flavored liqueurs and flavored liquors and watermelon vodkas and candy cane rum and all this crazy stuff. It's the truth though. There's a million different flavors now of liquor, and no one's saying, well, that's going to get kids to drink because it's properly regulated in a store and taxed. So it was one of the things. It's such an absurd argument, and I think it's being used and propagated completely in the wrong way because it's just not the case.
Well, and you're a great case study right now, Jay
Yeah.
Brody. We're hanging out with Dr. Gopal Bhatnagar and Beju Lakani, of course, from VapeMoshi.com. And I find this stuff so intriguing. Listen, I smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes maybe a month. Mm-hmm. And even now, I don't do that because I just got a VapeMoshi.com. It's fun. Like just for that one time I'm maybe drunk and I would go and have a cigarette, I just pull the cigarette out of my pocket. And I know it's like a better option for me. But Jay, to me, is a hardcore smoker, a guy who worked construction for years and years and years. And that's kind of what you do on your breaks. And I think it's an excuse just to take a break.
You couldn't take a break unless you were smoking. Yeah. The guys would yell at you, like, hey, go back to work. You don't smoke. Go. Yeah. That's how it was when I started, right? So,
and honestly, though, you're feeling better and you've wound down quite well from this product.
Yeah, I don't smoke anymore. I use the Vape Moshi e-juices with the e-cig I have, and it's been wonderful. It's easy. But there's still a lot of there's a lot of opposition from all ends based about this stuff, and it's kind of the further I get away from smoking, the more crazy all the opposition seems. Because 2 months ago I was gonna die smoking cigarettes, smelling like shit, driving around like a dick, and now I feel healthier. I can take bigger breaths, and I'm worried that this is gonna start. Every time I open the paper, there's a new study showing how beneficial it is, and then
I saw a great study on CNN the other day saying how we posted on our Facebook page on how this stuff is good. But I just think let the person decide. If it's good for them, then that's the way I think we should do this. Dr. Gopal, your experience now with people who go on this stuff, like you might have someone who had heart surgery and they still need to smoke. They are helping themselves, are they not? At the end of the day, if they get off smoking but need some sort of nicotine intake, are they helping them? Is that fair to say? Are they helping themselves?
The number one thing is getting off burning tobacco.
Okay.
Once they've done that, the nicotine itself, we could do a whole show just on nicotine itself. Isolated from tobacco, it's not as addictive as people might think. Is it? And you can all argue, well, if you're using something that's relatively harmless, then who cares if you're addicted to it or not? We were talking out in the green room. I have people so addicted to running that they're burning out hip replacements.
Interesting.
But they won't stop running. They're addicted to running. We would say, well, that's great. They're so healthy, but they're running on artificial hips, and they're going through that. So we've all got some weakness, personal weakness and addiction, but if just from a medical viewpoint and from society's viewpoint, what we want is people are not getting cancer, they're not getting heart disease, not getting emphysema. That is not only costing human misery, but look, half of all our tax money goes to healthcare. Okay? You get people off burning tobacco, that's more money for welfare projects, for housing, for infrastructure. We're struggling to control healthcare costs, and I think this could be a significant role in helping release money over the next couple of decades back out of healthcare. There's a potential for that as well. The harm, just to go back to the science of it, because that's what convinced me to be in there. There's actually a very interesting new study that showed, because one of the concerns is, well, what happens to people standing around the vapors? And a really great study done just very recently shows that 99.9% of the vapor is vaporized polyglycol, which is an ingredient in children's Tylenol, which we administer all the time. It's all over the place. Water, and the concentration of nicotine in the air is 0.06%. Okay, it's roughly about the same amount of nicotine you're going to get if you ate 2 tablespoons of eggplant.
Wow.
So understand nicotine is created in plants to prevent the bugs from eating their roots. And so eggplant, it just happens, it's in high concentration of tobacco, obviously, but eggplant, root vegetables, they all have a certain amount of nicotine in them. So I'm just trying to put that into perspective for people who say, well, it's danger to bystanders. You can argue that, if you're vaping, well, that's kind of your own choice, but you don't want to be puffing out stuff that might be potentially harmful. Dr. Farsalinos, who just published this research, shows that any kind of cancer-causing agents like hydrocarbons, stuff like that, is the same as people breathing air. So if you're standing beside somebody who's vaping, you can be very confident now that there's nothing harmful coming out to you. Okay? Is there harm to the person that's taking it? It's debatable.
Yep.
But it's going to be incrementally, like so far below smoking tobacco that even if there is something, it's going to be 99+% safer.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Beju, do you have anything to add from vapemoshi.com?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about the gateway issue and just about who should be using these products, it kind of got me thinking about it. And I just want to make sure that it's very clear from the business perspective. Look, we have no desire for non-smokers to be picking up these products, right? There's no interest on my part. I mean, there are 1 billion smokers on the planet today. Do you know what it means for our business if even 10% of those people look at this product legitimately as a way to get off tobacco? Right? We don't need non-smokers. And frankly, I think that if you're out there and you're thinking about vaping or smoking, don't do either. Breathe air. It's better. Right? At the end of the day, that's your best option. So stick to it. And if you're a smoker, take a long look at this.
Yeah, because your whole goal, and we've talked about this, you've been on the show now 4 times, was you went through this. You're another one of these case studies. You smoked way too much. You were in a bad place. You said, you know what, I got to change my life. And that's helped for you.
Right, of course. I mean, honestly, my story is just like Jay's, right? It was a couple of years ahead, but what made it work was just a gradual progression to vaping over smoking. Just like Dr. Bhatnagar just said, right? It was not an immediate turning off of smoking and switching to vaping. It was gradual, and over time I quit completely, and I absolutely feel better because of it, and that's why I started the company.
You never smoked an eggplant? You never just lit up an eggplant to get the nicotine?
Do you remember that Simpsons episode, the tobacco, whatever it was?
Tobacco, yeah. Okay. Tomato and tobacco combined. Beautiful tobacco.
It's coming out next month from VapeMoshi.com.
Right. Well, great stuff. I mean, listen, the only thing we try and do here is educate our listeners. Absolutely. We try and make them laugh, and we try and educate them, and we try and put a smile on their face, and we try and say, we walked away with something today that maybe will help us, whether it's inspiring them to do music or whether it's inspiring them to get off cigarettes. And, having a pro such as yourself, Dr. Gopal, I can tell you, really goes a long way. So I can't thank you enough for your time. You are an expert in what you do. Is there a way that people can get a hold of you if they truly have some more questions?
Yeah, I'm a neophyte on social media, but my Twitter thing is at @Gopal.
Sorry.
I'm learning about that. I also found out that as far as I'm concerned, if you're sending a message on Twitter, shouldn't it be a twit? But I understand, no, it's a tweet. So I'm learning. I'm old, but I'm learning. And absolutely. So they can get a hold of me on there. Between operations, I'm happy to try and respond to things. I just want to commend you, Todd, on taking time out and doing some, giving me the opportunity, getting socially relevant and healthcare information out to your listeners. It goes a long way because there's you have no vested interest in this yourself, except improving the health of your listeners. And it's a pleasure to be here and help.
The one thing that I don't understand is I really don't understand it. And this is a guy who smokes 1 cigarette a month probably, and I still do the odd time. I'm being very honest. I'm like full transparency. My emotions are all on my sleeve. It's disgusting. And I have this resentful feeling. It's like when I used to masturbate when I didn't realize it's okay for us to do that kind of stuff. I'm being serious. But I know it is so bad for you. And the second you get older in life, and I'm talking to you 22-year-olds right now who think you're invincible, the second you start to age, and it's so sad, you don't want to, but the second you do, and you start to realize that people go through these things, lung cancer and stuff, and you see the suffering that comes from it, heart disease, all this stuff, stop now. start living your lives better, because you know what? These are your prime years, man. And I'm talking to you 25-year-olds to, 40, 45-year-olds. Live it healthy, because you want to be healthier down the road as well. And all this stuff legitimizes it. And I don't know if it's good or if it's bad or whatever. The only thing I know is that smoking is shit. And I know that for sure. And I think that's what it comes down to, and I'm proud of Brody.
Yeah, just to add one quick thing, as like a former heavy smoker, I always thought like there would be I tried the gums, the sprays. I'm spraying gum in my mouth. I'm putting stuff in a humidifier, wearing the stickers and the tattoos, and eating the stamps and whatever the hell they gave me to get off, and nothing worked. Nothing even came close to working. And then the first time I tried the Vape Moshi was just like, oh, shit, there it is. Like, it was just like an aha moment where I was like, okay, this works. And it was no looking back after that. So I'm thankful for them.
He's lost 5 pounds in a month and a half.
Well, it has nothing to do with that.
No, it does, I think. You're eating, you're eating. And
you find people's taste improves, their coughing goes away. And because you actually have that ritual behavior, what you call, what you're saying is that ritualistic behavior of that oral mouth, that kind of thing, that actually prevents people from doing the other thing that what happens to people that stop smoking is eating.
Oh, interesting.
Most people, when they stop smoking, will gain 15 to 20 pounds because there are chemicals in tobacco that cause you to, that are appetite suppressants, but also you have nothing to do with your hands and your mouth. And so it fills that gap. And that's what I find so compelling, is that it fills the gap. If everybody, unfortunately, you have people that say, "Oh, it's a dirty, disgusting habit. People should just like quit, give up." You just got to be strong-willed. I was quite frankly, I'll admit, one of those people that says, "Look, why don't they just quit?" But as a physician, I've got to stand back and I got to say, well, people need help. How can we help them? Where can we help them? And so if we need to approach it, we need to approach smokers, people who are smoking, with a little more empathy. You can't just write off 15% of your society and forget about them. And I think that vaping has come out because the medical community and other people have kind of written off smokers and said, unless we can make money out of you from taxes and selling you drugs, that's all you're good for. Maybe that's a strong statement, but the more I see that we've got still 15% of our population smokes.
Wow.
Okay? I mean, that's a lot of people.
Half of those people are going to try and quit this year.
Exactly.
Good stuff. And you have a nice little community now. This vaping community. It's neat to see this little supportive community as well, because most of them are former smokers, and they share these common stories, which is basically living a healthier life. And that's the best part, I think, about it. Well, listen, Beju, thank you very much from VapeMoshi.com. Dr. Gopal Bhatnagar, please, anytime you want to come back on the program,
very kind of you.
Any studies you have, anything you would like to talk about, I know you're an advocate of this stuff. And more importantly, man, I know you're just an awesome cardiac surgeon, and you save lives. And at the end of the day, I've never saved a life. Jay Brody, have you?
14 times, actually. Yeah. I'm a hero, guys. I'm a hero.
If some of your listeners actually use this opportunity to get off cigarettes, you have.
Well, and maybe that's our little part that we can do. And it's the same thing, so we all try and do our part, and that's the most important thing. That's what evolution is, friends. Thank you again for hanging out with us here on Canada Labs Channel 168.